millions of vulnerable Americans struggle to get reliable transportation to their medical appointments. That's why I started MedHall. Citi launched the Impact Fund to invest in both women and entrepreneurs of color like me so I can realize my vision and give everything I've got to my company and my community. I got you.
For the love of people, for the love of community, for the love of progress. Citi.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to PaleyFest, New York. I'm Michael Schneider, Deputy TV Editor for Variety, and I'm delighted to be your host for this special conversation honoring Chuck Lorre and the stars of his hit CBS comedy series. Thanks so much to Paley's official card and official sponsor, Citi, for helping me make this event possible. Today, we're thrilled to invite the man himself to center stage, the great Chuck Lorre, and the gifted stars of four of his CBS series, Young Sheldon, Hearts Abishola, Be Positive, and United States of Al. So let's welcome them to the stage right now. The man, the myth, the legend himself, the creator of the Chuck Lorre creative universe, Mr. Chuck Lorre.
You left out the man who requires Prilosec to get through the night.
We left that off your bio. We'll have to back in.
Free plug.
Also from Young Sheldon, Iain Armitage and Zoe Perry. Iain and Zoe, welcome. From Hearts Abishola, Billy, Gardell, and Folake Olowofoyeku. From Be Positive, Thomas Middleditch and Annaleigh Ashford. Welcome, welcome. And finally, the newest member of this club, the United States of Al duo, Adhir Kalyan and Parker Young. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to everyone watching as well, and please don't forget to subscribe to Paley Center's YouTube channel at the link below, I think somewhere like right around there. So let's start our program. You know, Chuck, I've talked to you through the years. You've had such a long and successful career at CBS. Starting in 2003, you kicked things off with 2.5 Men, which of course ran for 12 seasons, followed by smash hit The Big Bang Theory, which also ran for 12. Leading into Mike and Molly, Mom, and now currently on the air, of course, the shows we have here, Young Sheldon, Hearts Abishola, Be Positive, United States of Al. So I know the through line is comedy. The through line is these are funny shows. This is sort of, great sitcom, great laughs. But I'm also wondering if there's another Chuck Lorre thread. If you sort of look at your shows, is there something that sort of, it says to you, this is a Chuck Lorre show?
Oh, my goodness. All right, we're leading with hubris. Okay. I would have to say that if there's a common thread, it's character. It's characters that the audience cares for. But prior to laughing, I've always felt the audience has to care for the people that are in the comedy. They have to have some sort of, they may even dislike them. Might be, sort of an abhorrent character, but there has to be some kind of emotional connection prior to any comedy being effective. And then of course, obviously if you don't have great casts like the people in front of you this morning, then it doesn't really matter what you write, you're going to fail. It requires great actors to make those characters come alive.
That's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say. Character, obviously, makes such a difference with these shows, and that's why these shows are so beloved, and they've been on for so long, and they continue to live on. The fact that Big Bang, for example, is still such a beloved show that people are binging. A lot of people for the first time. So that must be sort of real gratifying, Chuck, to sort of hear from new fans who are just discovering some of your older shows in addition to some of your newer shows.
I love that, and I set out purposely to try and make shows that have shelf life, that aren't discarded after you're done, that they're worth watching a second time or a third, they're not pinned to time, so that they can be watched years later and not seem like anachronistic shows. They're about human behavior and relationships and character and family, and that doesn't necessarily pin it to any particular time. So that was the hope initially, to make shows that that aren't stuck in a certain period of time. There aren't the bell bottoms and sideburns issues that can ruin the viewing experience.
Yeah. Well, how would you say, so you have evolved, and maybe your shows have evolved over time? Who is Chuck Lorre now versus a couple decades ago when you started on this journey at CBS?
Well, this is as good a place as any to say that this is this event here is a misnomer. These shows that we're talking about today really involve Steve Malero and Al Higgins and Maria Ferrari, Dave Getch, Warren and Jim Patterson, Warren Bell.
Gina Yashir. Yeah, it's
Gina Yashir, absolutely. I can't leave out Gina. We would never have done the show without Gina. We would never have dared to write that pilot had she not joined us. So thank you for that. I can't believe that she's like critical to making that show happen. So that's why these shows exist. At a certain point, certainly after the Big Bang Theory, I wanted to try and focus on helping the people that have helped me. So all these people I've worked with in the past, Dave and Maria on the United States of Al were on the Big Bang Theory for at least 10 years. Al and I go back, Al Higgins and I go back to Mike and Molly. And, Steve Malero from like day 2 of the Big Bang Theory was an instrumental part of that show. So working with him on Young, Sheldon and Steve Holland now, that's just a continuity for me to try and to not necessarily pursue my goals, but to see what are the goals of the people that I've loved working with, and maybe I can help. And that's why these shows exist. So calling these Chuck Lorre shows is not quite accurate. It's about these other people who have made these shows possible. Yeah, and you've smartly surrounded yourself with some great talent, and that's been part of this stage of sort of your career as well. It's been fun to see you sort of nurture this new generation of talent and work with them to create these new great shows. And we're going to get into the specific shows in a second, but first I want to talk to some of the folks here just about what it's like to be in this club. Billy, I want to start with you, since you've been in this sort of Lorre universe for a while. Going back to Mike and Molly, but what does that mean to you to have been a part of these shows? First off, career longevity, I know, but talk about being a part of this sort of Chuck Lorre universe.
It's life-changing. I always tell young performers, if Chuck laughs, an actor gets a house. That's how it works. The man's been ridiculously kind to me. And, when we did Mike and Molly, you just feel a difference when you walk onto Chuck's sets. It's like great coaches in the NFL. He's like Parcells. When he comes in, everybody just tries a little harder because they know that where the water line is. You're supposed to do really well here. That is what is expected of you. And if you do, you're going to be rewarded in the way of creating something great that's going to be timeless. I mean, Mike and Molly's now in that fraternity of, dinner time and bedtime shows. That's rare to get into. Young Sheldon's on their way there. And I'm sure you new guys are going to go there too, man, because I've just seen this guy. Listen, when he found me, he turned a 300-pound man into a romantic lead. So if you don't think miracles exist, or you don't think he's a genius, I promise you he is. And, the first time through with Mike and Molly, I got to experience this incredible journey. And Chuck, very, very fatherly told me at the beginning, because I was terrified to do it. And he was like, look, you're not going to have to do this by yourself. We're going to surround you with a great cast, great writers, and you're not going to have to carry that water up the hill yourself. And there's many times he had to tell me to ride the horse in the direction it was going. And now the fact that we get to do this again with him, and Chuck and I have become good friends too on top of it. So I'm really blessed that way. But to be in this, you feel like you got signed by the Yankees, and that's no joke. That it's just, it runs different. Every position runs efficiently because of the years of experience, and you can feel it, and it makes you a better player. I think it certainly made me a better player, man. And this time I get to go through it and enjoy it, and I don't have to call him too many times going, I don't think I could do it, Chuck. I think I'm ruining everything. So that's all past, and now I'm able to enjoy it and maybe pass on to my cast how lucky we are to be a part of this universe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Zoe, obviously you're sort of part of a multi-generational experience with Chuck. Talk about that and sort of, being a part of this family.
Well, just going off a bit what Billy was saying of how there's such a team effort. When I was going to audition for Young Sheldon, I rightly asked my mom for any advice. And the best advice she gave me was the laughs are there. Like they're great and they're there and you don't have to push them. And all your job is to ground it. And I feel like that is so at the heart of Chuck's shows too. Like he said, there's a universality to what he writes because he writes characters that are fully fleshed out. And it's been such a privilege on our show for our ensemble to grow and mix because everyone gets a full perspective and a full life, and I think that's what makes it so rewarding to play, obviously, but I think for the audiences too, because they get to really feel these characters as people, and he was kind enough to give us the credit for that. But I bring only what I can bring. I mean, it's in the writing. So it's a testament to Chuck and to all of our other writers. What we get to work on, truly.
And Iain, I saw you talking to Billy earlier before we started this. So you're sort of entrenched in this community as well. You're growing up in this world, this sort of comedy school. What's that been like for you?
It's been awesome and crazy and amazing. And I've had the wonderful privilege of working with so many awesome and cool people who I never would have met without doing this. And Mr. Chuck and Mr. Steve and all the writers and producers and people who work on all these shows are so amazing and wonderful. And, it's also crazy how, I know Miss Annaleigh Ashford from Broadway as well as from this. It's so crazy how everything just sort of ties in the world of acting.
Right. Well, and Annaleigh and Thomas, this obviously, these are like stage plays. This is, sort of an opportunity to perform. Obviously, it's been a little tough over the past couple of years with COVID, but nonetheless, talk about, doing a show like this that sort of allows you to, use some of that stage experience on camera.
Well, I'd also like to say that I'm so grateful to be a part of the superhero universe that is Chuck Lorre land. It feels like we are doing our own Marvel comedy land situation. Yeah. I feel like I wear a cape every day I walk in. But in all seriousness, I feel like we have had this incredible year where we've gotten this gift to make people laugh. And not just make people laugh with jokes, but make people laugh with heart and soul and character. And that is the gift. And I think the real through line of Chuck's shows is that at the heart of all of these shows, yes, we have these beautiful humans that we get to follow, but there's always a deeper meaning. There's always a deeper theme. And it's about human connection and being better and being a better person and being a better friend. We're just really honored. So every day I walk in the door, I also say thank you to Mr. Chuck.
And Thomas, obviously you've had experience on multiple TV projects. What's it like working on a Chuck Lorre show?
to be honest, what's lovely about a Chuck Lorre show is that it gives you opportunity, just as a comedian, it gives you opportunity to flex that muscle, but it never asks too much of you all the time, because at every opportunity you can play it real, play it authentic, play the moment. And if there's ever a chance that feels funnier if you put some curve on the ball, then that is afforded to you as a performer and comedian. And I think that offers a really, as a performer, a really lovely tone to play in. And we don't have our audiences right now, so we miss that, but can't wait to have them back. And that will be a real godsend to have that communication as well, because I know we only got one episode to film in front of it, but it was palpable that connected. So it's a great job. And I think Chuck has so succinctly that tone of sitcom that never feels forced, but always welcomes a great laugh. Yeah. And Parker, do you also call Chuck Mr. Chuck? I don't know if this is a theme.
I do. From my knees, bow down to him. I pinch myself every single day. I'm so honored to be here and with this wonderful panel of actors. But really, every day I go to work, I'm just pinching myself. He's truly a master. Chuck is the man. When I got this gig, my assumption was that there's no way that he could possibly deal with all of these different universes and be an active and integral part of them. But he is. He doesn't. He was very gracious and humble to give credit to everybody that he works with. But the man is on point, and he is there, and he shows up for us. And when he does, as Billy mentioned, everybody rises to the occasion. I mean, the energy changes, and he watches a run through, and he can just see where things are working, where things aren't working, and he's truly a genius, and it's an honor to work for him and to watch him do his thing.
And you're also a sitcom vet, obviously, but talk about getting the call and joining a Chuck Lorre cast.
I think what's interesting is that because of the pandemic, none of us have actually met each other, even though we are on stages that are adjacent or joining each other. So I think what's so remarkable is to hear everyone almost have on their individual sets something akin to a very similar experience. And so that's really exciting for me to hear that we here on Stage 24 almost sort of exist in a vacuum, but we're all sort of experiencing the same thing, working with Mr. Lorre on our respective shows. And, I've always sort of heard about the top-down effect and how the person who leads the charge can really set the tone for how production unfolds. And I think that what has been so extraordinary to witness is that Mr. Lorre, for all of his success over the many years that he's been involved with this business, is that he continues to have a drive and a commitment to excellence. And with each line and each scene and each episode of the show that we're so fortunate to be a part of, and his not only attention to detail, but really sort of commitment to ensure that everyone is serving the story really on our set, I feel has inspired everyone to give of their best every day to endeavor to do the same thing. And so it's been really inspiring, I think, more so than anything else, to be able to work for Mr. Lorre. And this is, truly the most extraordinary experience I've had in my career to date. And I think so much of that has to do with who he is as a person and as a showrunner, and how he really sort of sets the tone for everyone and encourages them to, be a bit better today than they were the day before.
Everyone is so respectful of you, Chuck. I want some dirt. I want some hard Scrabble stuff, but we'll get back to that. Folake, I want to talk to you about just the experience of, Bob Hearts Abishola has turned into such a special show, leading all the way up to the recent wedding episodes, which were sort of, touching and really felt earned given this journey and where the show has gone. But kind of take me through your journey of becoming Abishola and being a part of this and watching this show evolve.
There's so much to say. Where do I even start? I'd actually never heard of Chuck Lorre before I got this audition. I knew his work, and everyone kept on telling me how lucky I was to be working for Mr. Lorre, and I didn't get it. I'm still probably not getting it because this is the only thing I've known. Being part of Chuck's universe, and I'm glad that everyone's using that terminology now because it is a universe, has been so easy. It was the easiest audition I've ever experienced. It's the easiest work environment I've ever been in. You have to understand, I've been auditioning for like 20 years. I moved to America and I just started auditioning and studying and all that. But this was my first big break 20 years later. This guy gave a girl who looks like me, that talks like me, even when I was told I had to change my accent to succeed in this business. He gave me the opportunity to play a role with my accent and succeed at that. My former accent, now it's kind of changing. I'm spoiled. Everybody tells me that all the time. I don't know any different. And if I ever go out of this world, and I don't want to, I'm not quite sure how I'll cope. Everyone is phenomenally professional. And I think they all approach it that way because of the respect that they have for Mr. Lorre. And it's not possible for that not to spread. It's infectious. And you just want to do a good job to live up to the standard that has been set. And Chuck has said that. Billy sets it for me every day. And I don't have anything to compare it to except to say that I'm a lucky ass chick. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed. Sorry, Ian.
Well, one of the other sort of through lines with all of these shows is how they're able to, and it goes back to character, what Chuck was talking about. They're able to marriage laugh out loud, funny moments with some real, sort of tender moments, character moments. Watching Abishola sort of struggle with her son and leaving her son behind in Nigeria, is touching. But then a moment later, there's a laugh out loud moment. And one of the things I really love, by the way, about the wedding episodes is shout out to your production designers, because at first I was like, wait, did they really go to Nigeria? How did they pull that off? I had to Google, did they go? And no, you guys shot that on the Warner Brothers lot, but it looked amazing. Talk a little bit about that and sort of pulling off those episodes. And Folake, how real did it feel? Did it feel authentic? How did they pull off these really special episodes?
Yeah, look, it was the art department, our costume department. It's just phenomenal. I guess VFX as well, with the green screen and imposing the images so seamlessly into the episode. It was extremely, extremely authentic. Chuck, I don't know if you know this, but the episode where Billy and I are in the taxi driving through Lagos, you guys drive right in front of my house.
I heard. It's wonderful.
Yeah. That's great. So that's literally the only home I've ever had in my life until I started working with Chuck and I was able to buy a home of my own a couple of days ago. So that's like a full circle moment for me. It's very emotional for me. Even the airport, we're in the Warner Brothers lot. We actually had the Muritala Mohammed Lagos airport on the Warner Brothers lot. And it looked authentic. The detail was just, and people keep asking me how much I have to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. This is just the research of the production team, of the art department, of the costume department. They're phenomenal. I'm completely speechless. My mom was a party rental designer. And when I came downstairs from my dressing room and walked into the hall where they had the wedding decoration set up and where the wedding scene was going to take. I was just completely blown away because it took me back to when we would go set up for my mom in Lagos. She'd have our wedding parties and we'll go do the decorations. And it's a distinct kind of decoration we use in Nigeria. It's a distinct style. It's almost overbearing and and the colors are so rich. But they got it. They got it. It was brilliantly done. And I know they should be recognized for the work that they're doing. I think all the award shows should take a good look at this episode and see what the art department did and see what our costume department did. It's phenomenal work. And see what Chuck Rowley did and our producers, the creators, Al, Chuck, and Gina.
Really, how cool is that? I mean, how cool is it to sort of be in that environment and to see what they're pulling off on a sitcom?
Well, I told Folake, there was talk of us going to Lagos, and then of course with COVID that was kind of shot down, but they did have a camera crew down there shoot some exteriors out there, and again a nod to production because it didn't look like it went from an episode of Bewitched to a movie and then back. You could not tell the difference. But the thing I was telling Folake with Chuck, and this is because of his pedigree and because of his record of winning, that you get to do things like that. Like there's not a lot of sitcoms that just, they go, yeah, on the back lot, build an airport and also build the Balagoon Market. We're going to go out there and shoot. And to be a part of that, man, if you can't get excited about that, I don't know why you're in this business. You're playing at the top of this is the top of the game. And again, we talk about all ships rise, and Chuck does that, man. And we're afforded these luxuries to go shoot like that. Now I complain a little bit because he spoiled me for a while. I'm a house cat. I'm like, why are we going outside? It's hot. What are we doing? I don't know what we're doing here. Is there any tomato soup? But to walk up to that airport and see the detail down to the last minutia, and the same with the Balagoon Market. It just, and as an actor, it makes you go, wow, I'm in this, man. And it connects you. And then you want to do good because you see what's being put into it. And that's, I think, another staple of Chuck's.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. That's very cool. Well, let's move to Be Positive because big changes are afoot. So let's get to that in a moment. But first, Thomas, why don't you catch us up on your character Drew's journey and sort of where he is as in season 2 he receives his kidney but talk about sort of the journey up till now for your character.
Okay. Well, start of season 1, he gets terrible news that he is in renal failure, which means kidney, as we all know, and he needs a kidney transplant, and lo and behold, the only person that volunteers is someone he knew back in high school who is a total mess. And they get to know each other, and they are at odds, most definitely. But over the many obstacles that fall before them, season 1 ends with Drew and Gina going into surgery for it to actually take place, the transplant. And season 2 starts with the transplant. What am I supposed to say?
I think by the time people see this, they'll have seen the first episode. So we know that the transplant is successful. Drew sort of has a new lease on life, but he also has feelings for Gina, and he sort of now has to figure out.
Okay, I could just imagine all the PaleyFest fans being like, I can't believe it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so spoiler alert. Well, yeah, the surgery is a success. And Drew, with this new lease on life, he wakes up realizing that this kind of like tete-a-tete that he's had with Gina is beyond just like a rascally friend that he kind of is, that is a thorn in his side. He actually really loves that thorn, and he's quite smitten with her.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Annaleigh, obviously big things for Gina, and that's sort of where the show is now going. Sort of share with us a little bit of where the show is going and what to expect with the big changes coming to season 2.
Yeah, Gina really goes from being a train wreck to driving the train, which is good for us all because, she never knows where she's going, which is fun. But I think one of the special things about what Chuck does with characters, he lets them grow and evolve and change. And this is a great example of that. She found so much joy in helping somebody else and realized that was sort of her purpose in life, is making other people's lives better. And she finds a new avenue to continue to fight the good fight and do good work. And that happens to be in the form of, am I allowed to tell people?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll say it in a way that keeps you guessing.
Oh my God. The tension.
Here we go. I'm sweating. She finds a place to give back, and that happens to be her place of work. As we know in season 1, she works at an assisted living facility. So there's more to come with her old friends. And they actually happen to be old as well, literally old friends. And so we have some incredible people joining us this year. Like, I walk in the door and go, look at all the legends.
Yeah.
Yes, plural legends. There's lots of incredible people joining us. Linda Lavin is coming back. We have Ben Breen joining us, Hector Elizondo, Anna Maria Horsford, Jane Seymour, Ben Breen. I mean, it's quite Jim Beaver. It's astounding, the people that we get to play with every day. It's kind of amazing.
Or if Linda Lavin. I mean, we were talking about the creative universe, but these are the superheroes, right? I mean, these are comedy legends and just, legends of entertainment that are all now coming to one show. That's an embarrassment of riches. Chuck, kind of talk about, you've done this where you've evolved your shows in the past. I think of Mom as a show that started in one place and evolved to something different. Talk about Be Positive and sort of the thinking behind evolving that and sort of, bringing in these new heavy hitters and where you're going from here with the show.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's a fun thing to work on a show while it's on. It's like fixing a helicopter while it's flying. It's always a joy to climb up and tighten those blades. But the heart of Be Positive was giving. That was the beating heart of the series. In that this young woman, without any compensation, no quid pro quo, nothing, just to do it, helped this man live by donating an organ. And what happens is she experiences an extraordinary, deep joy as a result. And then the question is well, going forward after the surgery, where is that joy to be found? And she ultimately finds that it can be extended to other people, and she can make her life about service and giving, and that's not easy to do. It's a very clumsy, none of us are really trained, or schooled in that particularly. I certainly wasn't raised by anything like a Mother Teresa character. We were raised to go out and get yours. And she finds, to the contrary, that happiness is in giving, not getting. The love you take is equal to the love you make. What was that? Beatles lyric. And that's the nature of the series going forward. She's providing for these people who she cares for. And that seemed like a wonderful foundation for a series. Caring, giving, and the mess you make of it, because it's not a simple thing to do.
And then sort of because of the premise of the location at this retirement home, you're able to call up some heavy hitters and bring some superstars to the process as well. That must have been sort of fun to call some of these folks and just hey, you want to come in and play on Be Positive? Come on over, Hector. Come on over, Ben. What was that like to sort of call some of these legends?
It was extraordinary, and it was sort of a continuation of what I experienced on the Kaminsky method. Getting to work with people that I'd admired for years and years and years, and then to actually find yourself working with them is it's humbling. It's wonderful, and the show really becomes it's still, the title still works. Be positive is still the theme of the show. It's simply no longer a pun about blood type. It's about how to live your life, and working with people like this. Oh, look, Ben Vereen is it's Ben Vereen. So you can't quite get over the fact that, I grew up with these people, watching these people work for so many years. And now we're working together. It's a blast.
Yeah. No, it sounds like there's so many opportunities to go with this. So that's very exciting to see. And I know we'll start to see that evolution in, the first few episodes of the season. So excited for that. Let's talk young Sheldon now. I can't believe we're already hitting season 5, Zoe and Iain. Pretty incredible. Let's talk about sort of where we're going now. I mean, Iain, we mentioned that you're sort of growing up on camera, but what is it like now as you're sort of hitting this age where you're really sort of conscious of being on screen and watching this character sort of enter these teenage years. Talk a little bit about that experience for you personally as you're going through some of these same things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really crazy. I think just like recently I came home and my aunt was watching some reruns of Young Sheldon, and it was like some of our very first episodes. And I was watching how I used to portray Sheldon. And I think I talked a lot slower. My accent was slightly different. It was just so weird seeing how much I've changed with the way I do this character. And, while you're doing it, you don't even realize that you're changing anything. It just feels like you're doing the same routine. But since I am growing up, it is kind of interesting because my character evolves with me. And it's funny because, now, I mean, I used to come into work and think like, oh, I'm here, I'm going to get dressed, I'm going to get my food, I'm going to go upstairs, hair and makeup. Now I'm like, oh, I overslept, or, oh, I have a pimple here, or I have covered in makeup. It's just funny because I'm thinking about different things now when I come into work, but it's so much fun and so crazy and so cool. And I love the episodes that we've shot so far, and I cannot wait for people to see them. They're very fun.
Yeah, Zoe, obviously, there's the dramatic elements of the show too, and we're seeing the marriage and sort of where that goes. Talk about sort of playing those elements too, and sort of where the show might go in terms of the darker elements of these relationships, and what's that like for you to be a part of that and to play those roles.
Well, just going back to what Iain shared, when we started this, I had one teenager, which shocked me. And now I have 3. Mm-hmm. So that'll make you feel old. But they are the perfect people to play off of because we're all just naturally evolving in this show. And as they grow older, and their, storylines change, it's such a fun way to kind of grow with them. But yeah, in that same regard, there has always been, the knowledge of where our marriage on this show is headed, because obviously we have the benefit of knowing via Big Bang sort of where we go, which I'll share. I don't know, Chuck, if maybe Mom shared this with you, but when she got to do the wedding of Sheldon and Amy on Big Bang, and she got to say, I wish your father was here. She actually had a person in mind in Lance. and it made her actually tear up. And I was like, this, oh, the way this has all come together, it's so beautiful. But yeah, it's wild to have the knowledge of where our relationship goes, which my character doesn't, and also knowing the timeline of my husband's life. And it's an amazing kind of gift in a way of getting to play the lack of that foreknowledge, but also kind of enjoy the friction even a little more as I play it, because I don't know, there's just, I think for the audience too, there's an added depth and kind of meta quality to what we're doing, and so it's a lucky little wrinkle in that particular universe. But I just adore all my castmates so much, and Lance is my favorite human. I'm like, don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
let's just keep fighting.
That's what's fascinating about sort of knowing where things are going, and the fact that you guys have been picked up for last year, picked up for 3 seasons, so we know there's time to tell this story. And Chuck, it must be really interesting for you and Steve to sort of map this out and sort of figure out, okay, what are our beats? We know where things sort of go. How do we let this play out over the course of these next several years? So what's that kind of like to plan that?
Well, again, young Sheldon is so much Steve Malero. I don't want to speak as if this is no. Since like the second or third season or whatever, it's been Steve, and the timeline and the beautiful way these characters are evolving and these relationships are evolving, and is Steve, and that's just I don't want to actually answer that question as if this is my bat and ball. Sure. One of the smarter things I've done in my career is get out of the way when there's brilliant people like Steve Malero right there, who are capable of doing remarkable work without my interference. So.
Look at this, Parker and Adhir together in one room. I love it.
I'm so sorry. Obviously, for the first time in a season and a half, my Wi-Fi decided to be glitchy at maybe the most crucial moment. So I gave up, came over here. Sorry about that.
I think it's fine. I think you guys work together. You can sit next to each other. You're vaxxed, you're tested, you're good. Let's talk a little bit about United States of Al. Obviously, something that we were all wondering with the events in Afghanistan was, clearly this was an issue that the show was going to have to address at the beginning. And I saw the episode and I thought it was really, really well done. I thought they really, really found a way to perfectly address it. I think it was smart not to have an audience or a laugh track for this episode. It reminded me of MASH back in the day when they would sometimes not have any laughter. But for you, Parker and Adhir, talk about sort of what your expectations were and your concerns in how your show might have to address something so serious and important that's really going on right now in the world.
I think for us, what was so interesting, Park and I had the opportunity on behalf of the show, orchestrated by Mr. Lorre, to fly to DC to speak out about our Afghan allies and lend support on behalf of the show to them. And when we arrived in DC, we found ourselves in a hotel room with our military consultant, Chase Millsap, and one of our writers, Habib Zahori. And we were witnessing firsthand how Habib was texting Chase, who was trying to get in touch with a Marine on the ground at the airport in Kabul, trying to see if they could get Habib's pregnant cousin out before the fall of Kabul. And so we just sort of were sat in their hotel room for about an hour, watching them texting constantly, trying to make calls and doing everything they could to get her out. And that was in around the time that I think we all really sensed that with this first episode, we not only had a responsibility, but a real opportunity to tell this story. And I think the first episode, which is titled Promises, is really sort of a composite of the direct experiences of our Afghan writers, as well as the veterans and our staff. And I think the manner in which they were able to really carve out this story really spoke to all of us on such an emotional level, because for us, we were shooting the show as our writers and veterans were endeavoring to get their family members, interpreters that they worked with, and relations out safely amidst what was a very, very trying time.
Yeah, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. We weren't just experiencing the fall of Kabul on the news the way the majority of America was. We were experiencing it in direct proximity to our Afghan colleagues who were shooting. Our Afghan actors would be shooting a scene, and then in between takes, they would be desperately trying to get a hold of their loved ones, trying to make sure they were alive, trying to make sure they were going to make it through the week. And so we were in this position where we knew we needed to rewrite our premiere episode. And our premiere date was fast approaching, but we first had to do everything in our power to ensure the safety of our colleagues' loved ones. So we put the story kind of on the back burner. We focused on getting our loved ones out. And I think in the process of doing that, the story revealed itself to us.
Yeah.
We were going to be writing a rescue story, that sort of mirrored our own rescue operation to get our.
And that's a great word, actually, because that's how the set started to feel. It felt like as we were shooting the TV show, the set almost became a base camp of sorts that really worked as some sort of rescue operation where people were in touch constantly with others, endeavoring to get loved ones and people they worked alongside to safety. And so it was understandably a very, very emotional week for everyone. And there were many people who were able to get out. And then, because this is real life, there were also some people that were not able to get out. And so their story will sort of, hopefully have a happy ending as we endeavor to make strides. But it was wonderful to have like a collective group of people come together to share what is a very important story, to share the story of the Afghan people and what they're going through, and quite specifically, the Afghan interpreter experience. And for us to sort of get to play these two characters who are, were able to, for the first time on the show, really go on a mission together to rescue Al's sister and endeavor to bring her to safety, was very, very special. I think everyone in the set really feels like this was the most significant thing we've all been a part of in our careers to date. And I don't think that we will ever forget what that week was like. And we all truly do share a bond, having gone through that experience together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thanks to Chuck for making it happen, because I really don't think that, anybody else could have pulled this off. We had such an incredible team.
Once again, it's important to say, we had shot 3 or 4 episodes before this catastrophe, and when that happened, we were all at a loss. How do you proceed? How in good conscience can you go forward with a calamity like that happening in real time? And Maria and Dave called me and said, this is what's happening, what you guys just spoke about, this rescue effort for family members and friends in Afghanistan that's happening in the writer's room. Let's do a different debut episode telling that story. And then it was very simple, no laughs. Be as truthful as we possibly can, and let the chips fall where they may. But let's confront this issue with as much respect and honoring the sacrifices being made as we can. And it's something I'm so proud to be a part of. But this began with the writers on the show who were living it. Yeah. So we were writing about what was being lived by the people working on the show.
Yeah, that's also a testament to just the writing staff that the team put together, which and I had an opportunity to write about this earlier this year. It's a real fantastic mix of folks who are from Afghanistan. You have some veterans in the mix, comedians, Afghan comedians. It's a really, really, really interesting and important to get it right when it comes to staffing a show like this, to make sure you're telling authentic stories. And I know this is something that's probably going to reverberate, obviously, as it is in the real world, on the show for a while too. So, Park and Adhir, how do you see this sort of impacting United States of Al sort of going forward and sort of balancing the story of your two characters, but with what's the backdrop of what's going on in the world?
I think we've already seen how, we've moved away from the era of the sitcom where things are truly episodic and exist unto themselves. I think with this particular show, what we've seen certainly through the first season and now far more so in the second season is a real arc as we begin to track these stories and these characters as they move through, especially this season, some very, very traumatic experiences and challenging times. And so the season after the premiere has now actually been reworked where we're tracking what is happening with my sister after the premiere. We're sort of checking in to see how we're doing as characters as we move through the season, because just because it happened and it's in the past, in real life, these are people who are continuing to go through these experiences, whether they are now refugees or resettling or still have family members back home in Afghanistan. The show is going to be addressing in some shape or form all of this, whilst still, as we've always endeavored to do, really tell the story of how a war has impacted the lives of the people who are affiliated with that war, be it a Marine, an interpreter, the family members back home. And the show will continue moving forward to telling these stories with heart and sincerity. And as you mentioned, because of the writing staff and the people at the helm of this particular show, with a great deal of authenticity as well. And I think that's been so special for all of us to be a part of, because from a military standpoint, from an Afghan interpreter and cultural standpoint, the show has really been able to, in the same way that you were alluding to in Bob Hearts Abishola and the wedding episode, really sort of ensure that there is complete authenticity when telling stories of cultures that the viewing audience may not necessarily be familiar with.
Chuck, I remember when you launched Bob Hearts Abishola, you gave out IMAG hats, Immigrants Make America Great hats, to the press. And obviously a nice contrast to that other hat that had been going around. It sort of leads nicely into the question that we have from our festival sponsor, Citi, because these are such unusual and sort of difficult times when we're dealing with a pandemic, we're dealing with political polarization, so much going on in the real world. So the question from our festival sponsor, Citi, is what role do you feel TV comedy plays in helping us to navigate this unparalleled time in history?
Wow. How do you break that question down? I always have trouble responding to the macro questions.
Yeah.
Television, responding to cultural issues. That's above my pay grade, I'm afraid.
That's a pretty big pay grade. So.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Speaking specifically about Bob Hearts Abishola, the genesis of it, and again, without Gina, there's no show. But the genesis for me was, I'm the grandchild of immigrants, and I saw growing up how dynamic and determined and ambitious my relatives were, my grandparents, my cousins and aunts and uncles, my parents. The ferocity with which they tried to grab hold of what's available in this country was inspiring, and certainly created a work ethic in me. And I didn't want that work ethic, but it was jammed down my throat by my dad. And then secondarily, I spent about 4 or 5 years, and way back in the 70s in Miami, and And I got to see the Cuban experience down there. Dynamic, ambitious, creative, exciting. It was remarkable to be around, and it was something that really it spoke to me as this is what makes this. That's exactly what makes this a magnificent country, like no other. That immigrants recreate the country constantly. And in that recreation, it's being reborn in a way with every wave of immigration, and to its benefit. And that was something worth writing about. And then finding a way into it was a guy who has a heart attack and then falls in love with a Nigerian nurse. But beyond that was this the bigger story, which is. The magnificence, the brilliance of this country is the open door to people coming here to find a better life. That's worth writing about. And as it turns out, it's really funny. Yeah. So, the culture clash is always a wonderful area for comedy. And it's ultimately, it's about family. We're writing a story about two families. And that's as middle of the road for situation comedy as you could imagine. So,
yeah, and I think that is why I think all of your shows have the longevity that they do, because they're also talking about things that matter to all of us: addiction issues on Mom, aging on Kaminsky, and some of the characters in some of your other shows, immigration, like you mentioned, just relationships, family, of course, the biggest one of them all. So much of this is sort of, relatable, but also you find a way to make it funny too, as do your creators. So thank you so much, Billy and Folake, Annaleigh, Thomas, Zoe, Iain, Parker, and Adhir. Congratulations, by the way. Maybe one day we'll see like the crossover. I don't know how you do it with young Sheldon. You all have to go back in time or something, but
Time Machine, yeah.
Still waiting for the crossover in the Chuck Lorre creative universe. We'll make it happen. But Chuck, congrats as always on all the success, and congrats to all of you on your new seasons. Watch them all on CBS. Boom, there it is. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you for joining us for this very special PaleyFest New York conversation celebrating Chuck Lorre and his CBS Comedy All-Stars. And thanks to PaleyFest's official card and official sponsor, Citi. You can enjoy more of these programs by clicking the subscribe button below. Thanks, and take care.